I'm the biggest skeptic. I'm the one having the experiences, and I'm the one who's saying, you know what, guys, I don't know. It could all be very natural. These things maybe are happening and there's a rational explanation for them. Maybe I didn't see any ghosts. Maybe I was dreaming. The haunted house, that's a hard one. Even though I didn't see any ghosts, the things that happened there are really, really hard to explain away.
Science versus the supernatural. It's an age-old battle. And when these two worlds collide, anybody caught in the middle is in for some serious confusion. Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Welcome to Ghostly Encounters. Today we'll look at what happens when somebody thinks they've seen a ghost and how that affects their idea of what's real. Our experts say we can become stressed when we think we've encountered the supernatural. That's because there's suddenly a conflict between our belief in the world of science and the very different belief in the world of ghosts and spirits. A conflict that can only be resolved by coming to a personal decision about the reality or unreality of the supernatural. Anita Robeson is skeptical about ghosts. Is this the result of her unshakable belief in the world of science, or is it because of something more personal and more tragic? Despite her doubts, Anita has had experiences that she can only describe as supernatural.
It was my first day at work by myself. I was there early, and I was in my office, and I heard the front door open, and I was quite certain that I had locked it. In fact, I was positive that I'd locked it. I go, hello? I'm like, hello, hello, and I looked around a bit, and there was really no place to look. There was nobody there. There was definitely nobody there, and so I decided to give myself a little tour and make sure that everything was in its place. But I had also not seen every closet and every nook and cranny when I was originally hired. And I wasn't quite sure in which direction to go. It was a pretty big house, so there was one door I came to, and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, that's probably a closet. It doesn't really look like it's a room. Maybe I'll look in there later. Turned away from it and was trying to debate which direction to go, and suddenly I hear this and I turn back. The door to the closet is open about this much. It was definitely closed. It was definitely closed before. There's nobody there. I didn't open it. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, the house is haunted. I went up to the door and I opened it the rest of the way, and unbelievably there were stairs going up to the attic. I thought, wow, the ghost is showing me where the attic is. This is really cool. I was afraid, but I was also very interested. So I went up to the attic, and there really wasn't much of anything of interest up there. So I thought, wow, there's really nothing up here. So I stood there for a minute, and suddenly the room just got really, really cold. I should point out that this was in the summer, so it was certainly should not have been cold up there. If anything, it should have been hot. It was like a chill passed through my body. Like if you want to say it was a ghost, then maybe the ghost walked right through me, but it was that kind of a feeling that something really cold went through me. Then I got scared, so I hightailed down the stairs out of the attic, and I closed the door, and one thing I was very, very careful to do is to ensure that there wasn't something wrong with that doorknob. You know, maybe the wind blew it open, and I'm scaring myself with the stories of the house being haunted, and whatever happened earlier when the front door opened was probably my imagination. I probably forgot to lock it. I closed the door to the attic. It closed. There was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't loose. It wasn't something that could swing open by itself. Someone had to open it for it to open. At the end of the day, I locked the front door again. I made sure it was locked, put up the closed sign. Everyone was gone home. I had my end of the day paperwork to take care of. And I hear the front door open and a breeze sort of blows in. I just stayed at my desk. I didn't even get up, and I shouted out to the ghost. I said, could you please close the door behind you this time? Click. So I guess he went home for the day or something. I don't know. I cannot explain it. And that was my first day on the job. And no, I didn't run screaming out of there. I came back. Fast forward to 1997, I was living in an old house, again, an old house, on Gladstone Avenue. I was renting the basement apartment. One night I was sleeping in my bed and I woke up and I looked at the door frame to my room and there was a man standing there. The light switch was on the wall behind my bed, so I popped up and turned on the light and there was nobody there. I froze. I was really scared. I think at first I thought someone had broken into my apartment. I got up and looked around a bit, but clearly there was no one there, and the doors were all closed and locked, and there was no one in my apartment. So I was pretty creeped out, and a few nights later I woke up, and this time it's the same guy in the same clothes. He's sitting on my bed. Again, I froze. He's a lot closer to me now than he was when he was standing in the doorway, so I was holding my breath, looking. Okay, my hair's standing on end right now, just telling it. I have to flick the light on and he's gone. He's gone. I'm not pleased. I'm getting scared. I hadn't been living there that long. I didn't want to move. I had heard stories from people who, you know, have experience with the paranormal, and often they'll tell you that if you simply yell at a ghost and tell it to go away and remind it that it's not supposed to be there, like maybe it doesn't know it's dead. So I tried it. I just said, this is my apartment. I live here now. I'm sure you're a very, very nice man. I'm sure you mean me no harm. But if you could just please not come back because you're really scaring me. And he didn't come back. And a couple of months went by, and then one night I woke up, and this time I didn't see anybody, but I couldn't move. Something was holding me down on the bed. I thought, this is it. Some supernatural thing is killing me, and this is going to be how they'll find me dead in my bed with no explanation. I slithered back and I ended up standing up on my bed, just pressed up against the wall as close as I could. I don't know if it gave up or what changed, because it was so much stronger than me that I didn't fight it off. It let up. I just didn't know what to think. I was just so upset. I was so scared. I was still shaking. It was just awful. We go right back to the beginning. At the age of 5, we were vacationing at our cottage in 1962. We were supposed to be there for another couple of days, and I believe we were supposed to leave on a Sunday, and on Friday night my mom decided she wasn't feeling well, and my mom and my dad decided that we wouldn't stay till Sunday, we would just leave Friday night. My mother tried to get me to get dressed and some clothes for traveling home, and I ran into the woods around the cottage, and I was running around and running around. For about 2 hours they were trying to catch me and trying to leave, and I kept saying, we're not supposed to go, we're not supposed to go. No, it's wrong. And finally, of course, you know, the grown-ups won, and excuse me. And on the way home, we were in a car accident, and it wasn't our fault, and my mom and my dad and my brother were all killed. The other thing that survived was my dad's camera with film, and just incredible. And the irony, the ironic picture that came out of that camera is a picture of me and my dog just walking away into the sunset. Can't imagine what and everyone thought when they had the film developed, but when I was old enough to appreciate that photograph. I found it absolutely incredible. There was a shot like that. Not only that did the camera in the film survive, but a shot just of me and the dog walking away, as we did from the accident. Over the years, especially as a child, I would desperately try to conjure up my family. I would close my eyes and try to make them come to me. And I still do that even to this day. I have to be honest with you, because so many other things have happened to me, different incidents where it appears there is something else, there is another dimension out there perhaps. If I am seeing ghosts, then it would make sense to me that I would be able to see the ghosts of my family. If I'm one of those people that has some sort of gift where I can see dead people, then those are the dead people I want to see. People will say to me, you saw these ghosts, and I'd say, well, I don't believe in ghosts. I saw something happened, these things have happened to me, but it just doesn't make sense for me logically to believe in ghosts.
Experts tell us that in a ghostly encounter, our logical minds want to explain away the supernatural experience we think we're having, anything to keep our normal world intact and unthreatened. On the other hand, we naturally cling to our own reality of what we've experienced. This creates an emotional uncertainty as we try to balance these two conflicting ideas. As Anita's story reveals, that uncertainty can be complicated by her own personal histories. Despite her need to connect with her family, Anita has never seen their ghosts, and so her rational, logical self still doubts the world of the supernatural.
I think when we're born, we're all incredibly magical. I think we all see energy. Some people maybe a little more than others. I think that ability gets knocked out of us, gets filtered out.
Uncertainty and rejection aren't the only responses to a ghostly encounter. Unlike Anita, some people feel they've had positive encounters with ghosts, and that leads them to a very different response. Suzanne Caddy tells us she first saw ghosts during her impressionable teenage years. It changed not only her feelings about the paranormal, but her response to reality itself.
It took place in Blackstock, Ontario, the teeming metropolis. I had been babysitting for probably from the time their son was about 3 months old. I stopped babysitting for a little while because the husband had died, and so the wife and child went to her mother's for I think about 3 or 4 months. And so when she moved back into the house, it was the first time I was babysitting that this particular encounter took place. So I put Stuart to bed. I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and it was the sound I heard first. You know, when people walk in corduroys, there's that and it's such a particular sound. As soon as I heard it, I knew it was the father, because he always wore corduroys. It's like, whoa! And you sort of freeze for a second, and then I turned my head and I looked, and there was a hallway and steps coming down, which I could see, and then it went into the kitchen. And I looked, but there was no one there, but I could literally hear the footsteps coming down the stairs. And I turned back to the TV and I was just kind of, okay. I was listening to the footsteps as they're going through the kitchen. You've got such a mix of emotions, but you know what's coming. I mean, you know he's going to come out that next doorway and he's going to be standing 6 feet away from you. And sure enough, I heard the footsteps and I looked up and he was standing there, absolutely three-dimensional, as solid as you or I. the mouth opens, the brain goes blank. And I looked away, I pinched myself, I slapped my face, looked back, he's still there. I looked away again, shaking my head, because I literally didn't know what else to do. And I think I was also buying time because I thought, if he wants to talk to me, like, I'm not sure I can deal. It was like from one moment of being terrified to the next second, and it was absolute calm and peace. I mean, no words exchanged, just, you know, I just looked into his eyes and he looked into mine, and I knew, you know, and I knew that it was okay, and I knew that he was just checking up on his son. Then, you know, he turned, and I think if I rack my memory, he disappeared as soon as he turned, so that even though I heard the footsteps continuing, he wasn't visible anymore. The minute the footsteps were gone, I ran up to the little boy's room to check on him. I mean, I knew that it was okay. Everything was fine. So, you know, the rest of the night I'm like, okay. You know, what do I say? You know, do I tell her that her deceased husband has popped in? And I was feeling pretty sure that I shouldn't say anything. My dad had arranged to pick me up that night when she got in. And he picked me up, and, you know, it's dark in the car. And we drove home, and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, and I didn't say anything. We walked in the house, and he said, "You look terrible. You look like you've seen a ghost." Which was really unlike my father, and of course I immediately just burst into tears. And he's like, "Come down." He took me in the kitchen, fed me brandy, and just let me, you know, and then he's like, "Okay, there you go, you feel better?" It's like, not much. I think about how I felt in those first few seconds. You know, if that had been the emotion I'd been left with, I would never have wanted to see a ghost again. You know, I can see how people could feel traumatized because they don't have any context to put it in. You know, in my case, I was left with this unbelievable feeling of love and peace and, you know, just something so beautiful and so magical. I wasn't left with a feeling that I wouldn't want that experience again. The thing with seeing a ghost, it's as though you're moving between the worlds. People often describe it as like an onion. All these times and places and dimensions are actually all happening at the same time. You know, we've just forgotten how to move between them. You need to open your mind. I think that's a lot of it. I mean, it's opening our mind, remembering that there are possibilities that cannot be explained.
Both Anita and Suzanne's stories hinged on a tragic event. A family dies before its time. A toddler is left without a father. Yet neither of them surrendered to the temptation to see life as indifferent and hostile. They both remain good-natured women who see the world as benevolent and full of mystery. Suzanne wholeheartedly embraces the idea of a supernatural reality beyond the world of science, and Anita recognizes that the unexplained is an important part of her life.
Sometimes these experiences are reminding us of our humanity, not our mortality, you know, because it's not about the death. It's about the fact that we are alive, we are here, and there is far more than meets the eye going on.
The camera survives. Me and the dog are walking away. Like, there's so many things that are unexplained, you know? Maybe it's just normal. Maybe that's what life is all about, but it doesn't happen to everyone, so.
This high-flying real-life series will have you airborne.
Can you get me an anxiety pill, please?
On Airline. Then, let the games begin on Caesars 24/7, where the stakes are high and the